I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Kaz Piper. She is the author of an amazing book. It is called Those Little White Lines. It takes readers on a thrilling journey set in the 1980s, where the story revolves around Bridget, a captivating Australian blonde who falls for Jose, a seductive guitarist and songwriter from a popular American rock band. This is quite a tale. It'll keep you riveted. You'll want to turn those pages just as fast as you can. We're delighted to have Kaz join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Great Writers Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Kaz, so good to see you here today.
Well, thank you, Logan, for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Let's give the folks at home the big picture. Tell them what those little white lines are all about.
Okay, well, I'd like to think it as a book of survival because it was a adventure I went on that ended up as an American dream, but into my worst nightmare, really. It's set in the 80s, and it's about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which was pretty epic in that time. And I've actually have Susie Quattro that has endorsed it for me because she's been on that rocky, rolly road as well. And yeah, it's a very what would you say? Very extreme adventure that yeah. I mean, until I can't say too much because I've used pseudonym names, which I've had to do that.
Right.
And yeah, it's just an adventure like no tomorrow. It's very good.
So these are real life experiences that you've incorporated into a narrative, protecting the identities of the people involved. But the story is essentially true. Is that what you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite a tale, and like you said, pretty harrowing at times. The 80s were a strange era in a way. I mean, it was coming out of the 70s, which was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And the 80s was all about yuppies and clubs and cocaine and, bright lights, big city. Is that how you view it? Tell me a little bit about your perspective on the 80s party scene.
Okay. Well, living in Wollongong, which is a town south of Sydney, which is probably an hour and a half from Sydney. And we used to have all the bands come down there, like the AC/DC to the Angels to Little River Band, all those fantastic entertainers. And we always, it was just a fun time in those days. Everything was so easy and so what would you say? Just it was just fun,
Yeah.
and I ended up with the music situation. I had my father and mother were into music. They were my mother was singer, and my father was a teach ballroom dancing. So my sister played in bands. In a band on a Friday, Saturday night as well. So the music was always there and it was just party time. So everyone was, yeah, it was just having a really good time. It was a good time in the 80s.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the relationship between Bridget and Jose and what was right about it and what was wrong about it.
Well, when I met Jose, I was in working in a nightclub, and my girlfriend and I went out this particular night, and there was this really good-looking guy who sort of came over and approached us, and he was very what would you say, very hypnotic. And yeah, we went on this venture for the 2 days that he was there. Sorry, 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and showed him all around Sydney because Sydney was a very epic time with in that era. It was a red light district as well as all the nightclubs, and so I showed him all around the Sydney area, and then we had a wonderful time, and he ended up wanting me to come to America with him. And I had issues with my visa.
Hmm.
They knocked that back, and I've had to reapply in 3 months. And then he came up with this wonderful idea, or so he thought, was to take me through America illegally. So we had a private plane pick us up in Canada, in Vancouver, and yeah, and that was the story. That's where it begins.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. What access that people who are celebrities have at times, where he could, flout the law and fly from Vancouver into the United States and get around, the immigration and visa laws. Um, what was it like for you writing this book and reliving those days and those years?
Well, it was very emotional, of course, and also it brought a lot of closure for me. It's been like 36 years now, and hence the survival side of things. The American dream turned into the worst nightmare. He was a very controlling person. At first, we had the best time, went on tour. I met some amazing musicians, had lots of fun. And then I think it was just the drugs, the alcohol, and everything that was going on at the time. He had control over me as well. So I wasn't in the right frame of mind to do anything. I was very scared. He had me in a situation where he was very abusive, mentally and physically. And yeah, and I really had no way of getting out, or escaping, to the degree where it got to the stage where he ended up letting me go back to Australia. And that's another issue. I mean, and another thing that I can't really talk about at the moment, but it's in the book. And on the condition that I came back within the 4 to 6 weeks. And so I did. And when I did come back, I had a visa because I was going to Europe with my sister. So I had control then. So that was a really good thing for me, to finally have that closure with him and just have control of my life back.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, you're reaching out and helping others who are in troubled relationships, abusive relationships, through a foundation called From Broken to Brilliant, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your work with victims of domestic violence and abuse.
Well, Karen Jacobson is the one of the patrons of Broken to Brilliant. She's a singer-songwriter as well, and uh, yeah, she approached me when she had heard about the book, and yeah, just wanted my insight to what it was doing, what was happening to me at the time. So I did a book launch here on the Gold Coast, and I had supported the two charities. The other charity is that's against domestic violence is Rise Up Australia, and it's worldwide as well. So yeah, so I haven't actually got too far into that at the moment because it's just recently happened, but I'm sure I will be talking with her and moving on with that, and inspiring women out there that are in that situation, that have been in a controlled environment with their partner, is to really to get out and tell their story, and to help other people out there, women especially, and there's men out there too that are
Yeah,
that are abused.
yeah,
But yeah, so.
absolutely. Tell me what you hope people will get from your book, Those Little White Lines, regarding self-discovery, personal boundaries, and the pursuit for a better life.
Yeah, just be careful of anything that seems too good to be true usually is. And don't look at life through rose-tinted glasses, because you just never know what's around the corner. And yeah, just always be in control of yourself and not anyone else control you.
Yeah. Have you envisioned this book as a film or a series, perhaps?
I would love that.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's got all the elements of a story for a cinema or a series. A beautiful girl, a handsome guy, they fall in lust or love or like or whatever you want to call it, go out on a crazy adventure, it turns bad. and then she finds herself, and then there's recovery and redemption. So
Absolutely.
there's a lot there. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight, Kaz.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. And to the folks at home, once again, the name of the book is Those Little White Lines, Those Little White Lines. And there's the book cover there. And I think we know what those little white lines refer to. Of course,
Yes.
Very popular in the 1980s. This is a true life story that's been fictionalized somewhat using pseudonyms, but the essence of the story is very, very real, about a young girl who falls in love with a rock and roll star, right?
Absolutely. You got it.
All right, Kaz, thanks so much for joining us. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.